Good afternoon and welcome to the big pit. Over 100 acres of gin clear, weedy gravel pit behind me. Not an easy venue, it's like an egg box out there. But there's some very big fish in here, and our target today, a tench. It's mid-May, the lake's not been fishing very well, not a lot of fish showing. Spoke to one gentleman over the other side yesterday who said he'd done 6 or 7 outings for just 2 fish. Very few fish coming out, and the tench that were being caught were at distance by the carpers. So we're not expecting anything. We never do when we come up on a rock hard venue like this, but all the time you've got a bait out in the water and your confidence with your, with your method and your bait, there's always that chance. And this lake here could easily do me a personal best, or Chris. But what I'm going to do with the video is to start off a little bit of coverage from last year when me and Chris teamed up over the other side in a couple of swims. We fished overnight, and then early in the morning all we had was 1 bite each, but those fish were absolutely superb fish. And it just shows, you don't need many bites here. You're not fishing for many bites, 1, 2 maybe, but when those, you hook those fish, you just do not know what's coming up. So it's all about the worm kebab. If you want to know how to fish the worm kebab, take a look in some past videos. There's a couple of videos there how we actually mount those worms, the tackle needed. I'm not going to go through that with you today because this is all about getting the rods out, having some time on the bank, which is quite rare for me today, nowadays, doing an overnight session and getting those rods really, the swim primed, some spots found, getting it primed, getting the rigs out on those spots ready for that morning feed. If anything happens from now till tomorrow morning, I'll be surprised, but all the time you've got a bait in the water, you never know what's going to happen. Well, there you have it, the first tench of the campaign on this really large gravel pit. Done a bit of time last year and had quite a few 9s, didn't get that double. Still haven't got that double, but literally last year I could see a lot of fish moving at distance, so not only have I done me back in, but I thought I'm going to bring the bait boat, I'm going to put one out at distance. It's been out there about 2 hours, I suppose. Few fish out there moving, but not many. And then I had a couple of bleeps. Didn't think this was going to be a tench actually all the way in, because when you're fishing like 100 yards out, sometimes it's difficult to feel what it is. I thought it was a big bream, but there she is, first tench of the campaign. 7-pounder, beautiful fish, up and running at last. Well, I've got to be honest, 1 tench on my first visit, I would have gone home a happy man, especially as I'm only fishing till sort of 10:30. But same rod, put it back out about 120 yards, just for an opportunist fish. And that time it was a really good bite, ripped off, woke me up, I was having a doze, and I'm back in once again to the 9-pound class. This one goes 9.5 £, really fat one, as you can see, but I am so made up with that because I know it's a big venue, it's a deep venue. Some people have put some time in and only had a couple of fish, and I come down here, started about 6 o'clock, had one about 7:45, and I think it's 10 o'clock. I was just thinking about packing up and going home, and this beauty came along, beat me right up. What a fish, 9 pound, 5 ounces. Look at that tail on that fish. Probably never been caught before. Yeah, a very happy man. Really looking forward to the session next week, where I'll probably do a couple of mornings, might even do a night. Thank you, darling. You certainly have made my spring. Well, we're just down at the big pit. They always said it only takes 1 bite. Smile, you miserable star. And
it's early.
Yeah, this is Chris's first tench out of here. Look at the size of that belly, spawned up. We won't keep her out long. How big she go, mate?
Was it 9?
10. Personal best. So happy days, off the mark. Well done, chappy.
Yeah, cheers, mate.
What a beauty. Well, I'm down at the big pit this morning. We got down late last night, bank holiday weekend. We thought we'd turn up, everyone would have gone home. Put the rods out last night, not a lot happened, a couple of drop backs. Chris had a screamer this morning about 6 o'clock. He had a personal best tench of £9.10, and then I've just had this screamer at 120 yards, with 40 yards off me, slow ploddy fight round the corner into a snag, and actually came out, swam under my rod tip and went in the net. What a beauty from the big pit. 20 pounder on a tench kit, just cannot beat that. First tench session of the year. Things haven't really been going to plan after a fantastic bream early season, and we've got down on the big pit, got in one of the swims we fancied, and amazingly everyone said no tench are coming out, or very few, not seen a lot of tench, and we're sitting up and I see 3 tench quite close in, and it's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and amazingly it's ripped off, and I've got a personal best tench, the biggest tench I've ever caught by an ounce, 10 pound 5 ounces. No more Mr. 9 on this lake. Happy days. I am absolutely over the moon. Chris is just about to weigh his fish. It's a proper fat one. We'll get some photos after a while, but this is not an easy pit. It's not been fishing well. So that's one off both marks, which is really good.
Take
8-1, so a good fish. Worm kebab doing the trick at about 15 wraps. So both bites this evening, we've both seen fish move and then we've had a bite soon after. Unreal, look at that. That is what you call a proper one. Well done, mate. And we're only here for tomorrow morning and we've already had a couple, so top man. Well, what better way to celebrate
what a better way.
a couple of tench on the big pit. We weren't expecting that, were we,
no.
mate?
Food was just put on, wasn't it?
Food went out, both fish that came, we saw fish move, didn't we, in the area?
Both times.
And literally, within, a minute, the rod went off, didn't it? I had that good fish earlier, that double, well chuffed with that, and it's, we're only here to fish tomorrow morning. We only got here to get a sort of swim. We tried last night, didn't we?
Yeah, we wanted to get in here really, so last night was a bit of a
rush, wasn't it? And we wanted to be, quite a good easy access swim, didn't we? And as it was, we were running out of time. Traffic nightmare getting here and getting back. So we decided to abort last night, get here today in the hope of a swim. Managed to get this one, which, is quite a consistent one, I would say.
Yeah, luckily someone was just pulling out of it, wasn't they?
Yeah, he said he hadn't seen any fish, hadn't caught any. He was a carp angler, and within half an hour I saw a tench roll, didn't I? And we've seen about 6 or 8 fish move. He was a carp angler fishing at range, and we've actually dropped it really short, haven't we?
Yeah, Chris, I'm further out than you, but
yeah, you're at 14 wraps, 15 wraps. I'm right in at 8-9 wraps, because that's where I saw fish move. One off each rod, you know. And
one off each rod, bonus fish.
A fish each, we're happy with that. We could go home with that, couldn't we?
Yeah,
but we're going to sleep tonight, leave the rods out, bait up in the morning, and hopefully that's just a little taster.
That's a taster.
Like this hot chilli.
And the bigger one will be on its way. Oh, this is glorious, this chilli.
As Mr. Ponsford would say, Duncan always eats well, and he knows how to cook a good dinner. So yeah, good times with you, Mr. Pons, down at West Ampnett. Remember those. So Yeah, I hope you're well, mate. But at the moment, we're going to tuck in
We're
here.
going to tuck into this, get this rod back out for the night.
And literally, you know, if nothing else happens, we're going home happy. But I think it's going
I think something else will happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, second one. Just into evening. It's about, 8:30.
9 o'clock.
Only a small one, but they're all welcome. Very welcome.
Well, good morning. It's 5 a.m. and not a lot happened in the night apart from Chris had a screamer, and I mean it was a screamer. Lifted up and his hook link had been bitten through. So this rod, or my rods, have been out for, I don't know. When did I cast these out? When did I have that double last? About 4 o'clock yesterday?
4 or 5 o'clock.
It's 5 o'clock in the morning. I haven't moved them because you don't expect, you know, to catch too many tench in the actual night. And I must admit, I've caught some weird looking tench before. This poor one, this poor male, fought really hard, but it's a very funny shaped fish. I haven't weighed it. It's bigger than I think. It's probably 7 pounds. So yeah, there we go. That's my second fish. Really good start to the day. This is why we're here for the morning. A couple of fish have moved. Slugs absolutely everywhere. And Chris is looking at me saying there's tench rolling out there. So gonna get a couple of photos of this one, get the rods back out.
There we go. Third fish of the session. £7.14, a male. Definitely had my name on it because took me in a snag to the left, and I slackened off, thought it was gone. It swam back out, and there's the result. Well, here we go, just after 8 o'clock. Fish number 4. Didn't fight, thought it might have been a bit bigger, but just over 7 pounds. Still a nice fish, very good quality fish. Yeah, worm kebab doing the job again.
Very strange one. It's got a sort of really deformed mouth, and it's got like white tips to its fins at the bottom. At how much did that weigh then, Chris? 7.8 male. Well, that's it. We're just although the rods are out, we're just coming up to 1 o'clock, so finishing a 24-hour session on the lake. You happy?
Yeah, going away happy after we've been told it's very tough at the moment. So yeah, going away very happy.
How did your session go? Why did you fish where you did? Just say.
We saw we normally fish at that sort of range in this swim. You saw fish moving a bit closer and decided to come in a bit closer.
That's my philosophy, isn't it? I fish where I
yeah.
see fish, as long as I can get a bait down there. I did have to clear a bit of weed with a lead that you've got little spikes on.
Little feet
but
to find in lead.
I came the shortest I've ever done here.
Yeah.
But you fished at
15 wraps.
Yeah.
Yeah, I fished at 15 wraps.
But we were quite prepared to be fishing at 100 yards with a bait boat, because
without a doubt.
in the spring that's where the fish show. But I decided just to cast at it. I'm only fishing like 10 wraps, 9 wraps, so I've been casting. You've actually used a bait boat. Why?
I could have cast it, but I decided to use the bait boat because I had it, and it's out over the top of quite a bit of weed, so hopefully not pulling into the weed. Had 2 fish before it got dark, and I've had 3 today.
Yeah.
So I'm on 5 now, which is probably the best time I've had on here.
Yeah, you've had some tough times, haven't
I've
you?
had some tough ones on here.
And you had a screamer in the night, which absolutely flew off.
Thought it was going to burn the alarm out.
But came back with a bite off. You've had 2 bite offs on.
I've had 2 bite offs now.
And I really thought this morning I woke up, it was just textbook tench fishing, nothing all night. Didn't move the baits, and then set my alarm at 4:30. And at 4:45, I'm sort of just contemplating getting up and have a recast, and off it went, and I had a 7-11 male, didn't I?
Yeah.
And then literally nothing. I've had 1 bleeps earlier in the day, and then we're just packing up, and I've just had 3 bleeps.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking it's going to happen. There's always a chance, but just can't really see it happening now. Can you?
Not in this sunshine now. I mean, it could happen, but it's going to be 1 fish.
Yeah.
But 1 fish on here could be a fish of a lifetime, as your first fish of the session yesterday.
Yeah, it must be pushing getting on 20 degrees. This swim is like a sun trap. The wind's sort of changing around, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not been one direction, has it?
No, but to come off here with 7 fish, including the personal best, is an absolute result.
That's
so,
a result.
you know, we did that every time we came here. We'd be well happy. But I can't wait to get back, can you?
No, can't wait.
So keep tuned in, and we'll let you know how we get on next week, probably.
Yeah, probably next week.
Okay, probably a good idea just to have a recap on the tackle requirements I use for tackling big, snaggy, vast gravel pits for specimen tench. Rod of my choice is the ever reliable Fox Kevlar barbel. I've got the 175 tip added. Unfortunately, these are just no longer available, but you know, a good 175 rod will cope with most situations. This has got loads of power in the middle reaches. The reel is Shimano 6000 and it's loaded with Browning Black Magic low dye 12.6 pound line. Unfortunately, very difficult to get your hands on that line anymore, but if you go on the net, and you can, highly recommend this stuff. Get some, you know, get your hands on it. And then just coming down to the business end, I'm using on the gravel pits lead core for numerous reasons. One is it pins everything down and gives you a little bit of stealth there when it comes to not spooking those fish. Two, there's lots and lots of snags and you've got loads of zebra mussels, especially in the venue I'm fishing, so it just gives you a little bit of security that you're not going to get, you know, snapped off, or you know, those zebra mussels just go straight through mainline. And the third reason is it acts as an up trace, because when you're using the worm kebab, pike cannot quite often pick your worms up, move forward and bite through your main line. So you don't have to use it, especially where pike and zebra mussels aren't involved, but the venue I'm fishing, I use a lead core leader, and then that comes down to a block end feeder, a Drennan block end feeder. This is about 35 gram, and in there is crammed loads of chopped worm and a few red maggots. And then just looking at the hook link, the hook link is about, I suppose, about 8 inches. Sometimes I might use a slightly longer one if it's really weedy, but generally 8 inches, 9 pound fluorocarbon. That hook link is attached to a swivel which runs on the actual lead core, and it's trapped with 2 float stops. Okay, those float stops move quite easily, just making it nice and safe. There's a little tapered sleeve, creates a boom, so that creates an anti-tangle rig. And then on the business end, I've got a size 8 barbless on this case, because I'm fishing a Farnham venue tomorrow, which is barbless only. Size 8 beast, again a Browning beast in-turn beat point, perfect. Palatrax hooks are really good. As I said, this one's barbless. I'm quite happy to use the Gardner Talon Tips size 10 micro barbed for when I'm fishing the big gravel pit. And I've got quite a long hair there, it's at least 1 inch long. The tench love these worms, they just swallow them and then obviously reject, because they know something's not right, and that hook just goes down in the bottom lip. Some use the quick stops, great, but I find if you're casting long distances, they do actually pierce those worms a little bit. So I use just 2 buoyant casters here, and I trap my worms between the buoyant casters. It gives the bait, because you know, 4 or 5 dendrobinas cut there is quite a heavy bait, gives it a bit of buoyancy, and it just, for me, just works. So that's the rig I use, the tackle I use. Nice and kind of like pretty hard going because those big gravel pits are pretty snaggy. There's some big tension there, and when you hook one, you really don't want to lose it. Second tench strip of the year. Wind's in the wrong direction, I must admit, isn't it, Chris?
It is, yeah.
Got down here last night, managed to get the same swim. Chris had an eel in the night, which is good because we thought they died last year.
We were told they had.
Or they were all died, but not. And then bite time for us is 7 till 11. It's now 7:04 and the first tench is shown. Not many fish showing, the odd one, but this is probably one of the smallest ones we've had at 5:14 male. You hook that, the bite was like, what is that?
I thought it was a little perch.
And then it just came in, did nothing, and it was under the rod tip, and we went, it is a tench. So, but at least we're off the mark, up and running. Well done, bud.
Cheers, mate.
So this is Chris's tench number 2 of the second session. Again, he is the pest controller, if you can call. How big was that one? 6'9".
6'9".
So they're not spawned up yet, as you can see. That female, long, no weight to her really, but absolutely screamed off, that is. But any fish down here is you know, a bonus really. I've not had anything. We always said, you know, left hand side slightly deeper water, slightly better, but I just yeah, we're, you know, working as a team and catching a few. So well done, bud. Another one to your tally.
Right, this has been a bit of a tough one really. After the other day when we were getting some better fish, I've had a lot of small fish, well, a lot. 3 small fish today, around about the 6 pound mark. And then this has just come along. 9 pound free, my second biggest ever tench. Well made up with that. Took the other lines out, but it's part of fishing tight onto a spot, and which is what we've had to do to try and find some fish. But 9 pound free, well happy.
And another quick recap just on the bait. So the worm kebab, what you want is some good quality dendrobinas. I get mine from Apollo Angling. Unfortunately, fishing the worm kebab is not cheap. Kilo worms is, you're looking at 22 to 25 quid a kilo, and normally I would go through the best part of that in the morning when the tench are feeding. Red maggots, again, plenty of red maggots. I just put those into the feeder with a load of worms that are chopped up, just to break them up and work some air into that to get everything out. So yeah, the worm kebab, the ones I put in the feeder, wash them off. I use a sieve like this, a fine sieve, put some worm in there with the peat, go down to water's edge, just wash them off, cut them up. That goes in the feeder with some red maggots. I don't think the girlfriend, if she knew that I was using this to wash my worms, would ever use or eat rice again in the house and wash her rice off with this. But yeah, what she doesn't know. And then coming down to it, the worm kebab, the business end, there we have it. Probably about 5 dendrobinas or pieces of dendrobina, just big ones. Just cut them in half, put them on the hair. You can see that the hook is well away from the hook bait. Tench comes along, it's like a Christmas dinner to them. They suck it in, the hook goes in, they think something's not quite right there, blow it out, and the hook takes hold in the bottom lip. Job done. So quite simple, a bit of a messy bait. Sometimes it's nice to have a bait box with just some lake water. You can just wash your hands off, but an absolutely deadly method. So yeah, Tench love worms. Get yourself a kilo of worms, a couple of pints of maggots, get out to your local lake, give it a go. Wow, I'd be lying if I said it's been an absolute grueler for me. We're back in the same swim. Now, we know there's one spot that produces. Chris had 5 off it last week. I had 2 fairly close in. And today, I let Chris go on the same side, put them on the same spots. He found those. And I just thought, you know what, I went a bit further out, and I've just not had nothing all the way through the night, all the way through the day. And then this morning, he let me put my left-hand rod out on his mark, and we're about an hour from going home. the rod screamed off when I was up the bank, and this one comes along, £8.4, so that's really made my day and the session, because Chris has had a 9 and 3 smaller fish. So what a blinding session. That's what teamwork is, when your mate lets you put a rod on his spot, but he ain't fishing that side next time. Unbelievable. It's never over, is it, until, you know, all the time you got a line in the water, you got a chance. And the swans have just come through. They've got chicks, and they've just taken both Chris's lines out in close. And I said to him, he said, oh, I'm not going to recast them. I said, I'll just cast them out, because we have been taking them out with a boat. So he cast his out, and he looked at me after having my 8-pounder and said, well, you might as well chuck yours out. So I chucked mine out, cast it. We've got elastic clipped up, and this beauty's just come along right at the kiss of death. You know, we really should stay on, but I can't. I've got things to do. But that one, I'm guessing it's probably a high 6, low 7, I would think that one is. But there I was, staring a blank in the face, and then an 8, and this one's come along. What a place, what a venue. One thing I get asked quite often, and that is, do I use hemp? And yes, I do. Hemp is an absolute fantastic fish attractor. But the problem is, a lot of anglers think the more hemp I put in, the more fish I'm going to catch, and that is completely wrong. Really, you want to go lightly on the hemp. I use the frenzied hemp from Dynamite, and I just put a handful in with a load of chopped worm and maggot, and that might be 10 spawn loads of bait, just a handful, because if you put too much in, those tench will come in, they will get pre-ocked on that hemp, they will reject anything else, and you will have loads of fizzing going on in your swim, and you won't catch any. So yeah, hemp, Dynamite, frenzied hemp, that's what I use, but I go liberal on that. But if I was barbel fishing and using maggot, I'd put quite a bit in, but with tench I just caution little and often. And before I finish, I just want to run through a couple of pieces of kit that are absolutely vital if you're going to be fishing for big tench on a gravel pit. They can be weedy, but quite often that weed is just like a little bit of onion weed just covering the bottom, and this little gardener rake is absolutely fantastic. You can put it on a big rod, like a 3-pound test curve rod, the one you use for spomming, tie it on, cast it out, drag it back, and it just picks up enough weed that you can just like clear a spot. Absolutely fantastic piece of kit. I'll cover those in a later video. Another piece of kit from Gardner is a hook sharpener. These are really like, they just don't look like they're going to sharpen a hook, because you can bend them, they're quite rubbery. But gravel pits, all that gravel dents the hook. Check your hook point on your nail. If it slides, get one of these, go down, just put the point in and just sharpen it. Unbelievable, tiny little bits, attention to detail will catch you loads and loads more fish. Or when you hook them or prick them, it's going to go in. So clear the spots, make sure your hooks are sharpened, use hemp, you know, liberally, I would say. So hopefully that's answered a few questions. Any comments you've got, please, I'm here to actually answer them. I know I was bad in the early days, but now if you make a comment, you've got any questions, just make a comment on the video and I'll come back to you straight away.